This is so pathetic as actress ChaCha Eke Faani narrated how her mom died.
I have a little story for you. Don't go nowhere. Last week, on the 19th of February 2025, at about 7 a.m. in the morning, I had just woken up from sleep. I was in the middle of my meditations when suddenly my younger brother, Ike, began calling my phone. And because it was too early in the day to make connections with the outside world, I deliberately ignored his call and continued my formation, promising myself to call him back. But then, barely 30 minutes after I ignored his call, my youngest brother, Ahana, began to call my phone too. And then a weird feeling started to envelop me because the timing was off. They rarely call me, and this type of coincidence was just not to be ordinary. And so I paused my meditation and picked Ahana's call. And I said, Ahana Eke, how are you? He said, Sister, I'm not fine. I said, what happened? He said, Sister, Mommy is. In that moment, I felt cold chills on my body. I said, what? Ahana, what are you saying? He said, Mommy died this morning around 7, like a few minutes ago. I said, Ahana, what are you saying? And then he said, it was in the middle of the night around 1 a.m. that suddenly Mommy began to have a heart failure, and Daddy was out of town. He was in Abuja for a meeting, and so they had a hard time getting her to the hospital. And before they could rally round and take her to the hospital, she was already in coma. And it wasn't long after their arrival that the doctors declared her dead. And that as Ahana was speaking to me, Mommy was already in the hospital, in the mortuary. I said, give me, like, I don't understand. It's happening too fast. Too much to process. First of all, heart failure at 1 a.m. Dead. Okay. Dead people have been prayed back to life. How did we get there so fast? He said, yeah, justice is there already. Like, she's there. I have heard that there are several stages to grief. The first one being anger. It was that day that I experienced it for real. I went full on ballistic on Ahana. I began to curse him out and shake him like, why did you do this to me? I took it personal. I felt victimized. I felt like, how could my mom and you people did not call me the other? From the moment that she was struggling, it lingered. It was a couple hours. She didn't just, why did you call me? As if calling me would have done a lot. Although my faith is so strong that a lot could have happened, to be honest. Because at about that time that they said she was struggling with her heart, I was awake here in my house. Around that time, I was awake and I was praying, speaking in tongues for a daughter of mine who was in surgery room right about that time. How was I to know that while I was praying for the life of someone else, my mother was losing her own life? And so it was 1 hour of intense anger and rage with Ahana that had me wailing on the floor. And after I was done cutting him up, I cut the call. My other brother, the one that was calling before Ahana, he called me and I maintained the rage with him. I told him, you did this to me. And after I cut them off the phone, I sat on the floor and I began to think about my life. Think about how, whoa, yet again, another harsh reality of life just hit me. And I was forced to take my own medication, those advices that I give out to people freely as a mental health advocate. Life came reminding me, yeah, it is what it is. Feel the feelings, but don't become the emotions. You can choose to respond to it, or you can react. Whichever one you choose will determine how you will navigate through this loss. Grief is a heavy emotion. As a mental health advocate, I have made many videos, gone on many seminars, had several speaking engagements where I have severally narrated the many triggers of mental illnesses in people, one of which is loss of a loved one. So I was reminded subconsciously that if you don't take time, ChaCha, you might disconnect again. And I know where I'm coming from. After 2 major health crises that had me gasping for my own life and that had me struggling with a redemption of an image, a reputation that was ruined as a resultant effect of that crisis. And so I began to breathe in and out. I began to breathe in and out. I suddenly remembered all the many trauma responses that I had read and developed for myself. I suddenly remembered that for me, privacy, secrecy is my healing chamber. I always say that the only energy that I tune into, the only frequency that I identify with is congratulations, anything that is exciting. And so I propose in my heart not to let the news out, because come to think of it, what has telling the general public about the sudden demise of my mom got to do with my healing? Especially in that moment when the news was still fresh. So that what will happen exactly? So that the whole world will start to what? Flood me with sad messages on top of the sadness I was feeling? No. I felt like, no, I will cry, but you're never gonna see me cry. And no, you're never gonna tell me sorry. Don't tell me sorry. It's already a sorry situation. I'm sorry, my mom. Mommy, I'm sorry you. But don't tell me sorry, because somehow my emotions cannot handle being put or seen in a sympathetic light. It's a mind thing. And remember, I'm not like you. I'm wired differently. How you will react is not how I will react. And so I didn't post with my mom, but I was mourning. Eventually, when I was able to put myself together, I made a post that reflects loss.